Fallout 3's legendary DLC, Point Lookout, has been meticulously recreated in Fallout 4 by a dedicated and talented modding team who captured more than just the spirit of the DLC, but they also captured the look and the feel down to the smallest detail, including its story and lore. One of the most recognizable features of Point Lookout's marshy terrain is its abundance of geothermal activity, or at least what appears to be geothermal activity. You see, this region has a particularly unique history that gives these bubbles a very unique attribute. They explode. Heading up the western coastline, we can check out one of the many beached ships. Scrolled across the side, we can faintly read USS Ozymandias. Sifting through the interior, we can see a small space for just a handful of crew members, but nothing particularly interesting until we head around the back of the ship, where we can find a hatch to the below decks. In this cramped, partially flooded basement, we can find some Mirelurk eggs, and the Bish Co-Terminal. Bish Energy Partners, Natural Gas Survey Vessel, USS Ozymandias. After selecting mission parameters, we start the quest in Antique Land. Bish Energy Partners has authorized Natural Gas Survey Project MD16001 to perform field research. Private contractor Caroline Saunders shall be present as principal geothermal chemist on behalf of Bish Natural Gas Company. Local authorization for this expedition is granted in agreement with the Isle Negra Real Estate Company with representation located locally. Principal chemist Saunders is to take multiple soil samples and report on concentration of natural gas resources. Her spoken authorization signature will be needed on at least 3 survey sites to conduct further research in this area. Should these authorizations be granted, use this terminal to access expeditionary supplies to continue data gathering while Bish extraction crews are assembled. And we have a couple research interns present. Looks like it's asking for the verbal authorization code for each of the sites we're about to visit, and at the bottom we can select an error. Error, security base corrupt. Confidential. Task details. Point Lookout Survey Expedition. For your eyes only, Dr. Roach. On behalf of the Bish Company, thank you for accepting this contract. You will be posing as a research intern, reporting to Principal Geologist Caroline Saunders. Her experience with wetlands evacuation makes her the only real suitable candidate. However, Saunders is a known liberal with academic ties. We have only recently acquired excavation rights in the area. We believe that the mass burials of the American Civil War in this region have made the soil ripe for our purpose. This is the very same reason we are apprehensive about Saunders' liberal leanings. Your primary mission is to prevent Saunders from discovering the link between Point Lookout's bloody past and its profitable richness in its natural biogas resources. Code Blue protocols are authorized per your discretion. Saunders must be prevented from hampering this resource at every cost. So is Bish really after the decomposition gases given off by Civil War mass graves? And what is Code Blue? Thanks to the quest, we're given coordinates to the 3 geothermal sites, so let's head over there and see if we can find out more. About 60 meters out from our first hole, we find a spattering of coffins surrounded by brain fungus. One has to wonder if these are related to the Civil War bodies that we heard about on the terminal. Pushing up to our first site, we find that it's protected by some feral ghouls. Here we make first contact with these disgusting looking pools that produce some bubbles that are really tempting to shoot. Yeah, let's not do that again. Near the middle of this rundown camp, we can find a ladder that leads into our first excavation site. Inside, we find a massive cavern that's mostly lit by fungus. We can also notice a slight shimmer in the air, signifying that this chamber is filled with a flammable gas. Hopefully, we don't have to shoot anything in here. Straightforward, we can see a skeleton on the ground with a lab coat, surrounded by some lab gear, a burnt-out terminal, and a neatly folded radiation suit. Next to the burnt-out terminal, we can find Soil Survey, tape number 1.
This is Caroline Saunders, Principal Geological Chemist for Bish Natural Gas Survey, MD16001. Sample set 1 shows promising concentration of biogas in mostly limestone substratum of wetlands. No exact levels yet, but this site should exhibit more than enough extraction potential to meet survey goals. I'm going to leave a couple of interns here to handle the minutiae, but it's a formality. I'll move on to the other sites now to make sure that this isn't an aberration. Consider this my authorization signature on sample site 1.
With that, we get our first verbal authorization, and it seems like she's satisfied that the natural gas at this site is in fact natural and not made from thousands of rotting corpses in mass graves. Let's head over to the second site. On our way, we run into some of Point Lookout's hostile natives. Arriving at the camp, we can once again see a small outpost. Notably, directly adjacent to the camp, there is a small graveyard where, in one of the burial mounds, we can find a Confederate hat, confirming this location's Civil War ties. Back at the outpost, we can head down the ladder into the second excavation site. Here, we can once again find a cavern filled with flammable gases and skeletons to decorate the floor, but notably, one of them isn't wearing a lab coat. Next to a footlocker filled with biogas canisters, we can find Soil Survey Tape Number 2.
This is Caroline Saunders, Principal Geological Chemist for Bish Natural Gas Survey MD 16001. Preliminary results from sample site 2 are promising. We're posting similar concentrations as in the first site. Similar biogas makeup here as well, including a few organic compounds that I'm not familiar with. We've also discovered heavy lye residue in a naturally formed chamber at this excavation site. Lucky we were wearing caustics gear to begin with, or somebody might have suffered some serious chemical burns. I'd like to analyze this site further, see if there's any connection between those compounds and the lye deposits. My tech is telling me he needs a couple of hours to work on our ventilator unit. I suppose I'll move on to Site 3 in the meantime. Further analysis is for my own curiosity anyway. This is my authorization signature on sample Site 2.
Saunders in this tape explains that alongside the plentiful amounts of natural gas, she also found an excess of lye. Her curiosity is understandable because lye is not found in any kind of concentrated amounts in nature. Although we're not sure if Saunders is aware of this, but it was common even during the Civil War era to use lye to cover up the smell of rotting corpses. Saunders is either not aware that she's found a mass grave or blind to the danger of this fact. The third and final site was once again protected by a group of fair ghouls. Here we find a similar setup as the previous sites. Let's head down and see what we can find. Moving through a short passageway, we once again find ourselves in a large cavern. Like the other two sites, there's a table here. It looks like it has been tossed aside though, with its contents scattered at our feet. Along with another skeleton, we can find the third holotape.
What in the world have we tapped into? Sample site 3 is showing biogas concentration off the charts. Wetland substratum is surprisingly dense limestone at all excavation sites, and we've had no trouble locating naturally formed chambers. This and the dense calcite formation suggest that subterranean water flow has eroded a vast network of caves and grottos throughout the region. Mapping these will be a monumental effort, but necessary to uncover the bounty of natural gas resources captured down here. What I don't understand is the amount of lye residue we're encountering. I'm going to try and touch base with some of my academic contacts and see if we can find any precedent for it. We'll have plenty of time to work that out, though. I've no doubt Bish will want to set up shop here and drill their little hearts out. This is Principal Geological Chemist Caroline Saunders for Bish Natural Gas Survey MD 16001. Consider this my authorization signature on sample site 3. As far as I'm concerned, this is a prime location for biogas harvesting and a treasure trove for some field research.
So now we know that Saunders didn't know about the link between lye and mass graves. Unaware that she was doing anything wrong, she openly admits her intentions of sharing this information with her academic contacts. Dr. Martin Roach, who, remember, was spying on Saunders to make sure she didn't give word of this to her academic connections. After hearing Saunders record this holotape, he must have enacted Code Blue. What exactly was Code Blue? Well, back at the USS Ozymandias, there's one last passage, but it's mostly corrupted. Code Blue protocol for immediate implementation. We believe Saunders has made contact, academic contact, wire communication records, and then some blank spots, that Saunders is attempting to, some gibberish, connections associated with decomposed, corruption, enact Code Blue protocol, leave no evidence. Repeat, enact Code Blue protocol. So I think the key word here is leave no evidence. We can now enter the 3 voice authorizations and claim the expedition supplies, completing an antique land. Bish Energy was eager to exploit Point Lookout's genuinely rich natural gas resources. It dispatched a group of Vanguard scientists on the USS Ozymandias to verify the region's, as they put it, profitable richness. We can assume Bish Energy knew if word got out that the source of the gas was in fact long-dead bodies from the Civil War, they would likely have to cancel their investment. So they sent Dr. Martin Roach to shadow the operation, posed as a scientific intern. He was likely present when Saunders recorded the voice tapes in each of the caverns. As soon as Saunders signals that she was going to contact her academic connections, Roach enacted Code Blue, which was to leave no evidence. So he likely killed Saunders on the spot, then likely went back to the other 2 sites and wiped out the remaining interns. This explains all the skeletons. At Point Lookout's highest peak, we can find not what I would call a mass grave, but surely a massive Civil War graveyard, again showing the region's violent past.